I'm Richard Hamilton, and I came to the Narrators Forum in Sharjah last year, and I have very many happy memories of it, and I'm sorry, as I'm sure everyone else is, that we can't be there again. I just wanted to share some memories from last year. So I just remember, I'd never been to Sharjah before, and obviously the UAE are mainly desert, but it felt like the storytelling forum was a sort of oasis in the desert, and that to create all these wonderful little areas for storytelling within in the heat and the desert of Sharjah, and within that expo centre, it was so wonderful and sort of colourful, and all the children really enjoyed it. And I've just made a few notes from my memories. So some of the children's storytelling areas had names like the Floating Island, the Palace of the Sword of Kings, Diamond Valley, and there was even a sort of Punch and Judy stall. And then the other thing, of course, is I'd like to say hello to all the friends that I made in the festival, and I can't remember everyone, or I've probably forgotten some names, and you know, not mentioned everyone that I should have done. But hello to Fabio from Brazil, Sarah, Meg, Jay, Bjorn, Sophia, Rafo, Fatima, of course, from Morocco. I wish you all well, and I hope to be reunited at another festival, maybe Sharjah, maybe somewhere else in the future when the coronavirus is over. And I also, after the festival last year, I did a few sort of interviews with people in order to put together a little article for the BBC. So I'd just like to read a couple of quotes that I got from people. So of course, a big hello to Naima Salomon, the creative director of the festival that many of you will know. And he sent me some very interesting quotes about storytelling and the oral tradition. He said, the oral tradition has faded away because of communication technology, but it shouldn't really be called communication technology because it's destroying true communication. Face-to-face interaction has been replaced by a screen, voice by a keyboard, and time has been reduced so much that the words are no longer written in their full form. Humans have lost interest in each other, and serious psychological problems have ensued. That's why we need to go back to what humans do best, to speak, to listen to each other, and tell stories. Now, it's perhaps a little ironic that I'm quoting you that about the value of face-to-face communication, and yet here I am on a recording, and you will pick this up via the internet. But as I say, I hope that the real storytelling festival will recommence in real life. But in the meantime, this is a virtual festival is a good second alternative. Then some other people that I spoke to, I just like some more quotes as well. So Meg Nomgard from the Land of Stories, or Land of Legends, sorry, in Sweden. She said, because the theme last year was 1001 Nights. The stories in 1001 Nights show us that as humans we are all the same. The tales are not trapped within boundaries but unite humanity. What was told at the time of the Arabian Nights still evokes thoughts and feelings. It gives us laughter and sorrow. And Sarah Abushara from Toronto, but her parents are from Palestine and Croatia, so she's a true multinational storyteller. She said to me, storytelling connects me with my ancestors and transports me to faraway lands. The 1001 Nights is full of magic and wonder. We will always need a dose of magic to give us hope. The more grim the world becomes, the more we need magic to provide us with an escape. And lastly, but not least, a quote from Fabio Lisboa, storyteller from Sao Paulo, again a good friend. As one master narrator told me, storytelling is a dance between suspense and revelation. I would also add a third element, transformation. 1001 Nights has it all, from the beginning to the very end. The narrative is sustained by suspense, revelation, and transformation. So lots of very wise words there. And at this point, I'd also like to remember the ceremony, the prize-giving ceremony, where we were all given a lamp. So I just want to hold this up, and it's a symbol of everything magical about the festival. And I was thinking, but it would be rather tacky, that if I rubbed it, there'd be like a puff of smoke across the screen and some music, and then I would reappear in front of you wearing a Moroccan jalaba and a fez hat and tell you a Moroccan story. But you'd probably think that was cultural appropriation or not very politically correct. So I'm not going to do that. But what I am going to do is read a story from my book, which is The Last Storytellers, Tales from the Heart of Morocco. And this was one of the first stories that I heard. And I think it has a lot of relevance for what the world is going through now. So I just want to read it to you. The King and His Prime Minister by Abdurrahim al-Makwari. There was once a king who had a prime minister who was called It's Good. They gave him this name because no matter what the king said, the minister always remarked, "It's good." One day the prime minister met the king in the garden of his great palace, where he found him idly chopping a small strip of bamboo with his dagger. The dagger slipped on the bamboo and the monarch sliced a piece of his finger off. "It's good," the Prime Minister exclaimed. The sovereign wrapped a bandage around his finger, but he did not think it was good at all. In fact, he was so angry that he ordered the politician to be locked up in prison and left there to rot. Some days later, the king wanted to get away from all his problems and the endless intrigue in the palace. He decided to make a voyage by sea, so he boarded a ship and sailed away. After many days on the ocean waves, the vessel came to an island. When the king arrived there, he thought it was a beautiful place and disembarked alone. But no sooner had he left his boat than he met some natives. They warned him that on this island, strangers are always captured and sacrificed at dawn the next day. Before the king even had time to think about this, he saw a group of fierce-looking soldiers running towards him. They chased the king, caught him, and brought him to the high priest. Now, it was the tradition on the island that before they killed anyone, the high priest would check to see if he would make a good sacrifice. So the soldiers took off the king's clothes to see whether anything was missing, because you cannot sacrifice a body which is not complete. When they brought the naked king to him, the high priest noticed that a part of his finger had been chopped off. When the priest saw that the finger had been disfigured in this way, he said, "Stop! This man cannot be sacrificed. Give him his horse, his weapon, and let him go." So the king hurriedly went back to his ship and left the island. As he was sailing back, he began to think about the Prime Minister, who was still in jail, and remembered what he'd said. The king thought to himself, "Oh, he was right after all. When he said it's good that I cut my finger, he knew what he was talking about. If I had not cut it, I would have been sacrificed." When the king came home, he freed the Prime Minister and told him all about his ordeal on the island. He turned to the Prime Minister and asked him, "How was your time in jail?" The Prime Minister said, "It's good." The king was amazed and asked, "How can it have been good?" "Well, thank God you put me in prison," replied the Prime Minister. "If you'd taken me to the island, you would have escaped, but I would have been sacrificed." And I often read this story at talks, and it sort of has many meanings to me. And one of them is we can't expect things in life to unfold the way they do. And sometimes, without our knowledge, things that we think are bad turn out to be good. And there's a quote from the Sufi poet Rumi, which says something like, in the minds of man, things are good and bad, but in the mind of God, everything is good. And so I just wanted to reflect a little bit. I don't want to sound sort of preachy or, like some sort of thought for the day sort of vicar or something, but, or, give you morality lessons. But it just occurred to me that, we can't be at the festival, but we can contribute from all over the world. We can connect with each other through the internet. I know it's not as good as human face-to-face, touching and hugging people and being with each other, but there are many good things that have come out of coronavirus, and I know that people, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people have died, and it's wrecked the world's economies, and poverty is increasing, and it's a terrible, terrible thing. But having said all that, I just read the other day, because I work for the BBC World Service, I read the other day that an international study said that that during this crisis, conflict had reduced, so people were not killing each other as much as they were in places like Afghanistan and Yemen and Syria, and some of the conflict places in the world had seen a reduction in fighting and violence because people are coming together to try and fight a common enemy, which is coronavirus. And then another interesting statistic from the World Health Organization, they said that every year 4.2 million people die of air pollution as a direct result of air pollution. So as people are not using planes, as people are not using their cars, although the lockdown was terrible and, cut people off, and there's been lots of negative consequences, and I'm not downplaying that, there are benefits to humanity, and that one of them is that we're waking up to reevaluate our relationship with this planet. I'm not an activist, but I'm someone that is, like many people, deeply concerned about climate change, and I think the coronavirus crisis has given us a chance to rethink. So, as the Prime Minister might have said to the King, it's good. And thank you all, and I wish you well, and I hope to see you in the real world very soon.